Elder and Judge Lynn got an email from somebody and I get emails like this fairly frequently, but she said she didn't have a great mom like I did, and she's been listening to all the dating advice on and online and everything, and she wanted somebody. She wanted somebody to give her advice like my mother gave me, because she thought I was lucky to have such a mom, and I was. And so I thought about it for a moment to see if I could. Nine! I thought about it for a moment to see if I could think of what did she tell me. Couldn't think of a thing except this one instance. So I went back. I wrote a book about it called My Mother's Rules. It was everything she taught me in it, and I had really had to think about it. My parents really didn't tell me anything about dating, and I don't think a lot of parents do. I don't know. Now, I was born in 1959, so I don't know what goes on now. But as far as some people say I had a good relationship with my husband because I had an opportunity to see a solid long-term relationship with my parents. I saw a solid long-term relationship with my parents, but my parents' relationship made me believe I never wanted to get married because I didn't think my mother was having enough fun at all, and I just didn't see how being married could be any fun at all. My father, I didn't see a rational household. I didn't have that script to write from because our situation was so altered. My father was born in 1919. He was in World War II. He used to use flamethrowers in trenches, and he came back in the 40s, and they had trouble finding places. There was a whole bunch of different stuff going on. He was bipolar, unmedicated, and he was just fighting all of his life. And he made money, and he made problems. But he loved us very, very much. I don't want to get twisted. I don't want to talk about him too long because somebody's going to say something bad about it and then I'm going to get all upset. But I saw a solid marriage. I saw a dedicated marriage. I saw a marriage that nobody was going to leave except for that one day when I was 14. My mother said she might go, but she didn't. Now my husband, he had Ozzie and Harriet for parents. He saw that. He saw Table, he saw Strong, he saw Abel. And both of us saw when my mother became a widow, she remained a widow for 20 years. And when my husband's father, good Lord, my husband's father became a widower. He was a widower until he died. And I remember talking to him one time and I said, well, did you ever think of getting remarried? And he said, if you've already had the best, what's the point? And I kind of think my mother had that the same way. I will say this. Daddy had some strokes like near about the last 5 years of life that made him delightful. And I think that was Mom's reward. But Daddy was a good dude, but he fought a lot of demons. But he always took care of his people. I have to say that because I know somebody's going to say, you don't know what kind of, they were in. But anyway, back to the advice they gave me. I don't think I got any. I remember one time we were on Haddon Road and Livingston, I think. We were going towards home from something I saw with my mother. And I was young, and I'll never forget it. I thought she was telling me the biggest secret known to man, which was about if some adult wants to touch you, what to do, what to say, what things they might say, and what things I should do in response. Because that's the kind of thing you got to get to the kid before someone else gets to the kids so they know that that's real and that's there. And she said it in a way that she knew everything about it. So if I ever got anywhere near anything like that happened to me, I should come to her like, Mom, you called it. Because she wanted to fight what keeps people who do wrong things active, which is nobody else knows or nobody believes the people. So that's the advice. And one other time, I was either home from college or law school, I'm not sure which, and some people came over the house, and afterwards the son, who was about my age, called me and asked me out, and I was about to say yes because he was good looking, and my mother looked at me and said, and I went, "Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, I can't go on Saturday." And he goes, "What the F you mean?" And then I realized right there, Mama was right. If this guy would use the F-bomb while asking me out, he was not someone I needed to be around. Oddly enough, she didn't want me to marry Eric. And I did anyway. But there was a difference. You see, my mother had more information about this dude and life at that time, which allowed her to make a better decision in this particular circumstance. I knew Eric. I knew his deal. He didn't look good on paper. He had 4 kids. He just got divorced, and that messes up your money and all that kind of stuff. I understand exactly what was on my mama's mind. But once I made my pick, 9. Once I made my pick, they got on board the ship with me. They wanted me to be happy. I got on board a ship they wouldn't have wanted me to be on, but the destination was still happy. So since I was on this ship, they were paddling with me. They gave me a down payment and a washer dryer, along with a lot of eye rolls, but they did it. And then finally they got along. You know what I mean? My parents never, you do what you do. But I never really got any, this is what you should look for. This is what makes a good marriage. And I don't think it happens a lot. Especially back in the day when I was young, the only person giving advice was Dear Abby. And she was telling women, if your husband cheat on you, you got to understand they really like sex and they work hard. So it was a different age. It was a different era. My parents' advice was always about how to live successfully, how to get from place A to place B, how to treat people. Stop with that stupid thumb. But it was never what to look for in a dude. And my concern is that dating advice for me that would work for me would not work for my sister or any other people that I know. I was the world's worst girlfriend. You know what I mean? If you wanted to go to this movie and I wanted to go to that movie, I'd break up with you. Because I didn't think getting a guy was important until I turned 25 and just had this burning desire to have a child. And I said, oh crap, I gotta get a husband. But what, I would love to give you advice about how to date, but I don't know you. I don't know what you need and I don't know what you want. And now when you look at all the dating advice that's out there, it all tends to be, they tend to have, it's a lot of verses. You know what I mean? They want to give authoritative advice. This is how you do it. This is what you do. This is how it's successful. And there is this one way to do it. And then the other guy disagrees with him. And he says there's this other one way to do it. And then they argue with each other about it like Christopher Hitchens and the religious people. But none of that made sense, that makes any sense to me. I mean, now, I haven't dated since 86. Don't plan to date ever again. It was funny. The reason I used the thumbnail that I used, me and Decca, is when my husband and I got married. Now, let me say this before I tell you that story. Let me say this. Here's the only advice I have about being together in a relationship, other than advice that I give specifically to people on divorce court because I had their particulars in mind, is that I don't believe that there's one right guy for any or one right chick. I believe there's a group of people here and there that you can make it with, and that there's some would be less compatible and less compatible and less compatible. As long as you get somebody that's kind of compatible, that wants what you want, it needs what you need. There's no absolute. You should do this and you need that and hoodoo and what and this is what you have to bring to the table and this. I don't know nothing about that. What I know is when we got what do you call that? Engaged. My husband took me to St. Croix and he sat me down on the beach like this. He got all up on me and said, "Now look, I'm not getting married again. So I got to make sure you and me on the same page. This is what I'm looking to do. This is what I'm looking to have. This is what I like, what I don't. Tell me everything. What you want, where we're headed." And we had a conversation. He says, "Now, when we get back home, we got to go to a marriage counselor for 6 months so we can talk about it." And that's why I picked the thumbnail that I picked, because and I've told you this story before, but when we were in the marriage counselor, they gave us a test that tested our compatibility with the state of marriage. Like, are you compatible with being married? And if you have a 10, you're just like, you made for the institution. If you got a 0, you should be alone. Eric got a 4, I got a 1.7, which meant that I should be living alone in a cave with a dog, which is exactly what I'm doing right now, except no cave. And I got 2 dogs. Got sons, too, that come around a great deal. But basically, that's kind of where I ended up. But I'm happy for the 30-some-odd years I had before I ended up where I belonged all alone in a house with a dog or with 2 dogs. But anyway, the only advice I get is just talk. There has to be conversation. There has to be direction. There has to be purpose. And all of the dating advice that I see is so definitive that it can't be accurate for most anybody. And, even when they take it to a grander scale, talking either on a nature side that, certain things are supposed to work some way, or even on a religious side. And I don't want to talk about religion because I don't want nobody messing with mine. So I ain't going to talk about yours. You leave me mine, you take yours. But even when they talk about it from a religious sense, even if they have the both same religion, they don't ever agree on what that religion tells them to do. And they spend a lot of time arguing each other. And I got to tell you, half the time the point of argument is the money. You have to have a strong, definitive, unwavering opinion in order to have an argument about it. And get in an argument with me about it because I'm a sometimes maybe. Well, it depends. It could be. Well, I knew this couple, but sometimes it don't work. Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't have enough information. I'm not sure. I guess not. I couldn't see that. So, that's what that is. But I'm going to tell you the advice that I do have. Women are odd, men are weird, ain't nothing you can do about it. And women want one thing, men want another thing, and then everybody else wants something else. And you gotta decide. Now, here's the ones I use most often. 1, if you got a guy or a gal and you think you want them, list 5 things about them you don't like, and wonder and ask yourself, can you live with them long term? You can't just because they don't go away, typically, the things you don't like about somebody. Like, I was a slob throughout our entire marriage. I got better. I eased up on the brother a little bit. And every once in a while he said, "Baby, could ya? And I would. And so that would be one thing. 2, if you don't like the people that you're running into, the people that you're dating, go someplace else. Expand your dating pool. If you don't like the cats on your block, get on another block. Maybe go down to a museum where they have musical interests. That's where I want to go. The MIM. They're supposed to have all these musical interests. But anyway, but do other interesting things so you can see different types of people. Always expand your dating pool. You know what I mean? And don't have too many things on your I gotta have list. You know what I mean? I had to have a guy that was calm and relaxed and steady. Also wanted one under 6 feet, over 6 feet, cause. But this was a practical concern. I'm 5'1". My dad was 5'2". My mother was 5'3". My sister was 4'10". My grandmother was 4'8". So if I was gonna have boys, which I ended up having, I thought I had a maternal obligation to add some height into my genetic situation. And that's exactly what I did. And then you gotta watch them. We were together 2 years, and I saw one thing that I loved. When he started out, he used to show up late for dates. And when I expressed distress about that, he stopped. Do you want to see that? Oh, I was going to see. The one dog was dragging the other dog out the door by the ball, by the playing ball, you know. Not the other. Anyway, wait, what was that song about? I don't even remember. Oh, I'm getting old. Anyway. Oh, the other thing I would say, learn how to talk man, and men how to turn out talk woman. The less I say, the more he heard. And I tap him on his knee when it was at the important part, and he listened to a few more words than he wanted to, and I said a few less words than I'd like. So in order to get along, you gotta kind of meet in the middle. You gotta compromise. It's not like it is correct to use these number of words, or it is correct to do. Nah, I like to use 1,000 words. He wants to hear 100. If we can settle in at 350, and every once in a while I can go to 900, and every once in a while I can go to 0. We working with each other. I think the dating advice has got us working against each other. I don't know. And it doesn't seem that way, you know what I mean? We did not obey any gender roles. I mean, in some ways we did, you know, but we got in an argument about who should go down who should go downstairs when somebody breaks in. I say we both should go. He said he should go. I disagree. He won that argument because he's bigger than me. He won that argument just because he wasn't going to lose it. You know what I mean? He wasn't going to lose it. And another cool thing we did was the rare veto. We compromise and compromise and compromise and compromise, and somebody say something. Every once in a while, I just couldn't compromise, and we'd throw out a veto. And he could do it too. But the thing about the veto is most people misuse it. You got to veto maybe once every 5 years. You can veto something. It has to, and so they know when you vetoing, it really is important to you. You know, and that won't work for everybody, but it works for us. You got to figure out what works for you. What I would to talk about process and procedure, not, you know, alphas and simps and all that kind of stuff. That's just silly. At least that's, I think. Everybody want to put a label on something and leave it alone. But if you're label light and if you're label loud and logic light, all you got is people name calling. You have no communication going. You've got nothing. When you put labels on, it's just about how you feel about this group of people, and you're not listening to that person who just happens to belong to this group of people. You gotta be specificity is beautiful. Nuance is lovely. Sometimes maybe could be, might, I don't know. All of them are wonderful phrases. And I never take advice from people that I've never ever seen say, I don't know, I'm not sure, or I was wrong. I just don't. I don't take advice from anybody. I have to read it up on it and everything, and I got to do all that because I don't trust nobody. But that's all I'm saying. I don't know. I got here. I got started. It's Sunday. I got nothing going on. Oh, one more thing. Do you see this? How I do? I'm not drunk. Did you see me on the show? This is just how I roll. And I don't know. There's a cadre of people out there who think I'm a drinker. Because I don't act like the women they know. Ladies and gentlemen, sober as a judge. Crazy as a loon, but what you gonna do? Nothing wrong with having a screw loose as long as you know what to do when it wobbles.